Man, it must be tough for Nintendo and the Wii U. First, before the Wii U even came out, after Nintendo was talking about how all these third parties were praising the console, and after you had the whole thing with Nintendo talking about how the Wii U is going to be your system for not only Mario and Zelda, but also for third party games, everything wrong for Nintendo happened. Before the system even came out, third parties were coming out left and right to criticize the power of the console and how weak it was. Then when the console actually came out, the console was littered with poorly performing games that performed better on the Xbox 360 and even the PS3. And keep in mind, the Wii U is supposed to be a next-gen console. Not a last-gen console, but a next-gen console. And now, well, of course, third parties left and right were dumping the console, and now the Wii U has literally no third-party games. I mean, even Call of Duty, even Madden, even Minecraft, all the games that have been ported to literally every platform under the sun are not on the Wii U. Really. And even the indie games, like many of the big ones, they're not on the Wii U. They're either just picking one platform, or they're being ported to every platform under the sun, except the Wii U. But hey, the Wii U has gone home at least, right? The #1 patriarchy fighting game that everybody wants to play. And even with exclusives and games designed with the console in mind, nearly all of them run at or below 720p. Not above 720p like you will frequently see with the Xbox One and the PS4. Because both of these consoles have games that will run at far higher levels than any Wii U game. And that's because the Wii U simply is not powerful. And Bayonetta 2 is yet another nail in the Wii U coffin. Now, everybody remembers how Bayonetta 1, especially on the PlayStation 3, had tons of performance issues. Now, even though the 360 version had some frame rate drops, even though they targeted 60 frames a second, Bayonetta 2 runs even worse than the 360 version. And keep in mind, the 360 is a console made in 2005, back when the status symbol was having a Motorola flip phone, or any either 4-letter Motorola phone, or an i-series Motorola phones. You know, the ones with the walkie-talkie button you could push, and it would make that beep-beep sound, and you'd see referenced in a lot of rap videos, and of course commercials on every single network. I mean, ESPN had a bunch of ads for those back in the day. And of course, this was also when Windows XP was still the most used OS. I mean, Microsoft was making Vista, but that wouldn't come out for another year. And it's also when the Pentium D was a new high-end processor based off the old inefficient Pentium 4 design. But enough with me babbling about tech, I'm just trying to prove a point. 2005 was a long time ago. And yet this game, Bayonetta 2, is running worse than the first one did on a console from 2005. On a console from 2012. This is 2012, this isn't 2005. And yet Bayonetta 2 is running with frame rate drops. Even when there's nothing on screen, there was frame rate drops. What does this say about the Wii U? A system that's so underpowered that hackers have come out and confirmed that the system has a CPU from 90s Macintoshes. You know, the clamshell iBook or the fruity colored iMacs. Remember those? You probably don't if you're, like, let's just say young. Or even if you are young, you might have seen them at your elementary school, but you get what I'm trying to say here. The PowerPC G3 is an old CPU design from even way before the Pentium 4 and Pentium D. And by Pentium 4, I'm referring to the later ones, like the hyper-threading ones from 2005 that were big back then, with the LGA 775 socket, you know. But the point is, this is the Wii U. It can't even handle a game that's designed to be played at 60 frames per second. It can't handle Call of Duty, where that series' frame rate's pretty much 60 frames a second. In fact, that's why they kept using that old engine, was so they could get 60 frames a second. Bayonetta 2, and keep in mind, this does not have the port excuse. This is a game being made from the ground up for Nintendo's console, and this is their second Wii U game too. There's no excuse. The Wii U is just underpowered. It really is. And it runs at 720p too, so much for that whole Wii U has more 1080p games myth. But yeah, that's the thing with the Wii U. The Wii U is not that powerhouse that Nintendo, that the fans online are making it out to be. It's just weak, underpowered, and it's to the point where people aren't even comparing it with next gen because it can't even be compared with next gen. But people are having to compare it with last gen. You know what console this reminds me of? The Wii. Because the Wii was just like that. The Wii was also where people were trying to compare it with last gen. Of course, last gen won because it had the original Xbox, and that had some great looking games like Half-Life 2 or Doom 3 or Far Cry or Halo 2. And that's the thing. The Wii U is yet another underpowered Nintendo console with no games. And the worst part? What thing makes you want to buy a Wii U out of all the consoles? Because there's nothing. And there's no excuses. I mean, if the Wii U had this magic, bizarro architecture like everybody seems to make it out to have, then why? It's like 2 years since the Wii U came out at this point. Or just about 2 years. And guess what? The Wii U is still struggling to run even games that Nintendo bought the rights for. That should tell you something right off the bat about the Wii U. It's underpowered, plain and simple. And there's no getting around that. I mean, sure, you can say something like about how console power never matters and why does the PS4 even exist. And I actually saw one person try to say that the reason there are still cross-gen games is because they don't need power that you can get in, like, let's just say an Xbox One or PS4 over the old aging 360 and PS3, and that anything with new hardware is just those evil Western imperialist developers who just don't get the power of the Wii U and that's all you need. Seriously, I saw somebody say this on at least one message board. But you know, I think what proves my point the best that the Wii U is underpowered, just take a look at Sonic Boom running on the CryEngine and how well that runs. Because it's running pretty poorly to me. And did I mention that Sonic Boom is a Wii U exclusive, pretty much? That should tell you enough about the Wii U. It's underpowered, and Bayonetta 2 is yet another example of this. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.